Hey, Crafted Shutter watchers, welcome to a question and answer on what questions you've been having on shooting stock video. And before I go into that, I just want to encourage you, if you're just watching the video for the first time, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so and ring that bell. What we cover on this channel is not only stock production in photo and video, but also I run a business shooting photo and video. Stock just happens to be my main income earner, and I can live off of my stock income, but also I give you pointers on how to start and run a business as well. Camera tricks, camera reviews, everything related to the visual industry that we all love, and I'm here to help you with that, to grow with it. I've been at this for over 9 years on my own. I left the healthcare profession in order to follow my own dream. Now, some questions and answers on stock, and these are questions that come up on a regular basis, and so I thought I would answer a few of them for you today. First is, what frame rate should I use for stock video? And the good news is that with all modern editors, they can take any frame rate and mix and match them together in a timeline that the editor's working on without any problem. I personally shoot in 29.97. The reason I do that is I feel like you can take 29.97 and drop it into a 24p timeline, and it slows it down just a hair of a fraction, makes it look nice. Whereas if you take a 24 and move it up to a 30, you've got to interpolate and add frames for that, and I don't feel the quality is as good. You can also shoot in PAL, and so really that's just what I do. Now if I'm shooting late at night or it's really dark, a lot of times I'll shoot at 24p, and what that does is slow the shutter down a little bit, and it lets more light in on the sensor. So I'll make decisions with my frame rate based on how I want my image to look, more than what I think will sell. So overall, I shoot 29.97, but again, a lot of times I shoot 60 frames a second. I think that's a great option, especially for sports and 4K 60. It's great if you can upload in that, but you don't need to shoot the same frame rate for everything. It's really a creative choice. So don't get bogged down with, oh, I missed it. And I'll do a little video more on what it looks like, but if you don't have a lot of motion in your scene and stuff, I mean, you're not moving the camera around a lot, then 24 frames is good. If you're on a gimbal, then 30 and 60 is, you can smooth it out a little bit better. It's just a little bit easier to work with if you're walking around with your camera and then stabilizing it in post. So those are the tips. What frame rate? Doesn't matter. I shoot 29.97. How about size? Can I still submit 1080 footage? And the answer is absolutely yes. You can submit 1080 footage and no problem whatsoever. 95% of my sales are from 1080. I would not submit 720. I don't even know if all the agencies would even take it at this point. 1080 is going to be your minimum. And then 4K. I don't do a DCI 4K. I do 3820 by the standard 4K size for TV. Sorry I didn't give that to you, but you don't have to give the broader format on 4K. Just the standard 4K size is absolutely fine. That won't really matter on your sales either, because if it's a little bit bigger 4K, so what? They'll drop in the timeline and scale it to regular 4K. Frankly, a lot of people don't know this, is they'll take a 1080 and scale it up to a 4K res on a movie clip, and I've actually shot a 1080 footage for a motion picture company because they wanted a picture of a hospital hallway of where I could go ahead and get that for them. I shot it on a 1080 camera on my Olympus EM1, and they scaled that up to 4K, and they were shooting with RED cameras, and it looked just fine. It looked amazing. So 1080 is just fine. 4K is future proofing. So if you can shoot in 4K, then go ahead and shoot in 4K. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. So shoot in the best quality, highest frame rate that you can. But don't let that hold you back if your camera only shoots 1080. It's content that matters more than the frame size, okay? Well, Kodak, what should I use for Kodak? Should I do 422 ProRes and all this? Again, the answer is really simple. H.264 is absolutely fine. I mean that, okay? So don't over color correct your clips. Make them standard color, make them good color. And H.264 is absolutely fine. You can use other MP4 flavors, whatever the sites accept. But you don't need to worry about 422 10-bit color space uploaded in ProRes unless you're shooting high-end for, you know, maybe Stoxies to take some log formats in 422, and they advertise it that way. So if you're shooting for a stock agency that says, hey, we just accept 422 10-bit, you know, log files, then that's a niche agency, and then you need to shoot what they request. But if you're looking at Adobe, at Shutterstock, at you know, Pond5, all of the others main sites, don't get hung up on what Kodak you're using to export in. It does not matter, friends. Editors are not looking at that. I know, because I've shot over 400 commercials, and every time I've gone to buy a stock clip, I'm just looking to see what's going to fill it, not what it was shot in, what color space, or anything like that. Okay, when someone's got to get a project done, they've got to get a project done. When an editor is, even on a movie, you know, they're basically using your stock clips for around 3 seconds. That's probably the average rule. So don't get hung up on, you know, 422 and all that. It's going to be a waste of time. Camera gear. You can shoot stock with just about any camera if you understand the camera's limitations. In other words, if I'm going to go out and shoot night in a city and I'm going to take my A7 III and you're going to take your iPhone, it's just no competition. You know, it doesn't make any sense to use your iPhone to shoot night shots. I've done it. I've cleaned it up with a neat image and post, and sometimes you can get away with a half decent shot, but use your camera for what its strengths are. And you know, like my A7 III is a low light beast, and so when I want to get low light, I'm going to use that camera. And you know, when I want to shoot slow motion in the middle of the day, your iPhone's absolutely fine for that. So just understand, like, you know, a GoPro is also very similar to an iPhone on sensor size. So, you know, you can use your iPhone as a GoPro. You can, you know, gear, if you want to get the most bang for your buck, the most, you know, different choices to shoot stock with, then you need to get a camera that has interchangeable lenses. And I don't care if that's a Panasonic GH5, I don't care if that's an Olympus EM1 Mark II, which is really a fantastic camera for video, friends. I mean, it's underestimated. I've shot Olympus for years. I now shoot mainly with a Sony A7 III. I also shoot with a Canon XC15, which is a great camera to shoot with. So, you know, it just depends on what I'm shooting, what camera I'm going to grab. But for stock, just grab any camera that you have and start shooting, and look through the other videos on my site here, and then you can see, you know, what you need to shoot and what you need to focus on. But don't let the camera itself hold you back. I'll go over more camera reviews and what I like using. And if you're wondering, what am I shooting this on right now, is my Sony RX5 Mark V. And I've got that propped up on a little tripod on the table here, and it does a fantastic job. It's one of my favorite cameras for stock, is because it's so small and stealthy, and the video quality on it is phenomenal. So, you know, just have an open mind and focus on quality and the limitations of your camera, and know that, and use your camera wisely. And we'll get in, if you want to get into, you know, what it means when you're out in the real world producing commercials, what people are looking for, that's another video I'll get into. But for stock, you can really start with just about anything. Now, model releases. I get this question a lot. When do I need a model release? And the thing is, anytime there is a person that is can easily be identified in your picture or video, you need a model release. And yes, that does include yourself. So yes, if you're shooting stock of yourself, which I have done for years, you need to make sure that you have a model release of yourself, and you cannot witness yourself, so just get someone else to witness it, obviously, and then you're going to be just fine. If you're shooting a big crowd of people and they're at a distance and you can't pick out one person too easily, most sites will go ahead and accept that without a model release. Some sites won't. They're more picky. You can, get away with shooting like silhouettes and not have to get model releases. Just make sure you cannot tell who the people are. Yeah, you can shoot people's hands and feet generally without having to get a model release. Just watch out for logos and other things along with that. So it's almost common sense, but if you can identify the person, if there is something in that frame that can really identify the person, you can't submit that without a model release. Now the same thing goes with a property release. If you're shooting on public land and in public areas or on corners of even public buildings, you generally don't need a property release. However, when you're shooting, an isolated building and that's all you can see, or an isolated home, you're going to need a property release. So if you're out shooting cityscapes, as long as you're getting a bunch of buildings in the frame, you're going to be okay. You don't even have to worry about logos. It's if you start centering out certain structures, you're going to need a property release. So it doesn't hurt, wherever you're shooting, on a private home or wherever you may be, even a home like this. I have property releases for my house when I shoot inside that I include when I upload clips. So the bottom line is, get a property release when in doubt, okay? If you think it's going to need a property release, then 9 times out of 10, it's going to need a property release. And that's the main questions right now that have been given to me, and I hope this is helpful. And if you have any more, I'll do another question and answer video for you guys and gals, guys, men, women, ladies, however you want to identify yourself is fine with me. And I'm sorry, I'm Southern, and sometimes it shows, but I've lived all over the country. I've lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've lived in Chicago. I've lived in Kentucky. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. I've lived in South Carolina. I lived in North Carolina. So I've been around a little bit. My dad is a retired minister, so I had to follow him around wherever he went. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, in the comments below, let me know what other questions you may have, and I will make another video. Thanks for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. And until then, we will see you in the next video.